Welcome back. Let's bring you the story now. Eskom needs to stop the Kusile and Medupi projects and do a reset. That's the view of Mike Rossouw, who's been an independent consultant to the utility on its construction challenges. He says the consequences of not halting the projects are there for all to see. Well, Rossouw is my guest this morning. He joins us here. Mr. Rossouw, thank you very much for your time. So what's been the response from the power utility on your request to press the stop button? I've
not had any response from the power utility, save for having discussions with previous colleagues at Eskom who have left Eskom. But they pretty much are saying the same thing, that the projects started off wrong. There was not sufficient design work done before construction started. And so what that does, it creates an ongoing problem with contracts that are not sufficiently specified, and contracts, the boundaries of which mean that Eskom pick up the interface risk. So, for example, between the boilers and the generators, Eskom are bearing that risk.
How was this allowed to happen in the first place? These are mega projects for this country, two major coal power stations.
I think one needs to just remember that Eskom were refused to build in 1998, where the government correctly decided to start inviting independent power producers, but then failed to do so. So there was a period of probably more than 5 years where no build was taking place. So by the time the demand started exceeding supply, the government turned to Eskom in a rush and asked them to please pick up the responsibilities again. The consequence of that was that Eskom were under pressure to bring these projects into operation as soon as possible. But that's not possible, because projects such as these need something like 5 to 7 years upfront work before you start putting in contracts. They didn't do that.
Mr. Rossouw, we have since heard from the officials, very senior, even the Public Enterprises Minister, Pravin Gordhan, admitting to design failures, never mind the delays in completing these two projects. I guess the important question to ask here now is that if that reset button is pressed, we know that at least the one project, which is Medupi, is scheduled for completion either next year or the year after that, 2021.
I think 2021, yeah.
Kusile is a completely different story. We're talking 2023. What will be the impact? Because you are going to essentially put these people into panic by saying a reset button. What do you mean when you say reset button?
The mention of a reset button simply means they've got to do a stock of exactly where the problems are, particularly on the interfaces, and then revisit them to make sure that they deal with them in a proper manner and learn from the mistakes that they made on the first few units. They've done so, but I don't think sufficiently enough. That's what I meant by reset. They need to go and do their homework and to do a stock of exactly what they need to do going forward, rather than just pushing.
You were employed on a consulting basis by Eskom back in 2014. Are you still there? If you are not there now, you are surely in contact with the people who are dealing with the technical aspects at Eskom. What seems to be a major problem there at the moment?
It all turns around the contracts, which, as I said, started off wrong. They were insufficiently specified, and so consequently you're dealing with trying to fix a contract during construction. That's extremely difficult and costly. So the consequences for Medupi and Kusile is late, is obviously the costs have escalated just completely out of control. But it's sad to say that unfortunately the demand at the moment is very low. So because the demand is low, the lack of this capacity or the lateness of this capacity isn't impacting as it would have had the economy grown.
You're talking about escalating costs. We've just heard the senior management in Parliament yesterday, led by Jabu Mabuzas, telling the Portfolio Committee that they expect to make another 20 billion rand loss in the next financial year. What's the solution? Is there any possible solution to the escalating cost?
Let me rather say what the solution is not. There's a lot of pressure from Eskom and from government to increase electricity prices. That would be the worst thing to do.
Well, that's what they're proposing, a tariff.
What that's going to do, it's going to reduce the demand even more. And that's one of the biggest problems that Eskom is sitting with at the moment. They don't have sufficient demand. So they've got this capacity, but they don't have the demand to procure it. So by pushing up the prices is the wrong thing to do. The big thing that needs to be done is Eskom needs to get its costs under control.
It's a messy situation. Thank you very much for your insights, Mike Rossouw.